All right, we were in the NBA streets last week on the club. Today, we are going to do an early preview of the Week 7 slate on Underdog. Maybe hop in a Dawg Bowl. We got a fun promo running again this week for the live final in Miami. We'll do a couple battle royales, all of that good stuff today on the club with myself, Clay, and Andy. Let's roll. All right, Clay, Andy, Pete, the club going up on a Tuesday. Clay, how are we feeling here? Final days in New York City?
Final days in New York. Yeah, I'm in a bunch of boxes at the moment. So my life really hasn't slowed down since the wedding. And I think I'm going to enjoy getting to November and really getting to kind of settle in to the new spot and kind of really soak in football season. I feel like I've kind of been like running around so much with everything happening in my own life that I haven't got to fully appreciate, even though I finally got to watch Red Zone a little bit the last weekend and before. I'm looking forward to kind of be able to like properly park it and have a full-on NFL Red Zone Sunday. So
what's on the New York City, pre-leaving bucket list? Like, what are the things you have to hit before you go?
There's too much to hit, but the fun part is it's really gotten us like out of the apartment on weeknights. It really kind of forced us to try to get off of work and go take advantage. We don't have enough, weekends left since we got back from wedding and honeymoon to really fit everything in. So a lot of restaurants, we kind of wrote down like our top, 5 to 10 spots to try to hit, trying to see, some people if we can work with schedules. And for me, it's like, I want to get a few more like sunsets over skyline. And I want to get a few more like walks through just like the parks or we went to like Central Park like last weekend, walked around like with like the leaves changing stuff. And that was like nice and just kind of makes you really feel like you're in the city. So yeah, things like that.
Andy, good. How are you doing? You're not going anywhere. You're parked in New York.
No, yeah, we're not going anywhere. Been good. Doing a lot of NFL stuff. Had a couple decent finishes over the last few weeks. Nothing crazy, but been some fun sweats the last 2 weekends and getting ready for NBA season to come back. Starting to get all of my spreadsheets ready and all that. Make sure my Chrome extension for mass entering still works.
There you go. I'll do a little tease because I know we've been pivoting back and forth some NBA football. We will do an NBA themed show next week, and we're going to have J.E. Skeets swinging by. He confirmed he'll be joining us next week. So that'll be fun. And Clay, did you say tip-off is a week from today?
Yeah. So it'll be fun. It'll be like a fun NBA tip-off show with Skeets. I'm super stoked that he was down, and honestly, great day to have him on too. So we'll have a lot of fun next Tuesday.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you're holding out for NBA content, we'll get you next Tuesday with Skeets. But I thought today we could do a little high level strategy for this Underdog Week 7 slate. I normally each week I've been trying to get more volume in. I got to 50 battle royales last week, got like 12 Dawg Bowl drafts in. So getting the early drafts certainly helps. But real quick, Andy, what were your sweats last week?
It wasn't any huge tournaments, but it was the let me just pull up my results so it'll be easier than me trying to remember. The Monday, Thursday melee.
Oh.
I ended up 5th. That was the Raiders, Packers, and Chiefs, Broncos.
Yeah.
And so that wasn't bad. I ended up 5th. As I was watching that game, I had like an out to potentially win it all, which would have been nice for the nice $12,000, but 5th wasn't too bad. And then this past week in the fullback dive 2, which it's a small field tournament. It's like 500 people, but I got 3rd place in that, which was nice because it made up for an otherwise. I had 50% Devontae Adams, so the fact that I came out plus money this past week was nice.
That's impressive. I had a decent, I didn't have any big scores in the Battle Royale, but it was one of the first weeks that I took like a really strong stance. And my take was Cooper Kupp should have been the 101. Obviously him and Tyreek were both kind of the guys you needed, but felt good being massively overweight Kupp, which allowed a lot of my rosters to cash. On those 2-game slates, Andy, is there anything interesting you do strategically? Is it more portfolio based? Is it a scroll the F down gem in all of them? What are you doing in those?
So the team that I got fifth with actually was a 2 tight end team, which was kind of fun. I
Okay.
had
That
I
is
had
unique.
Kelsey and Musgraves, um, and it was close to doing well. I think it really depends on the slate, honestly. Like, I feel like those are so situational based on what 2 games you're getting, because sometimes like the Monday night, Thursday night this week, I didn't do too many. Let me see. I think I have those up right now. So I didn't do too many of those, but like these, you had this Chargers Dallas game that was kind of weird, and then you have the Jacksonville New Orleans game on Thursday, and so it was like there were 4 running backs who were good, and every other running back on the slate was like
Yeah.
almost undraftable. You're like, if you don't get one of those 4, you're taking Rico Dowdle or something, which no one wants to do. Um, and so I think like that really influences the strategy of how you want to play each one. Is sometimes you can, sometimes when there's 4 quarterbacks and 4 people drafting, you don't really care which one you get and you want to wait. And so I think a lot of those is really just like going into each slate very opinionated about kind of which position group you can sit out on and which one you have to like hammer the studs, um, is I think the right strategy. But we'll see. Everyone is very different in that sense. Whereas with the battle royales, you kind of have an idea going in. Some weeks are more wide receiver strong or tight end strong or whatever, but there's a
Yeah.
general formula that's a little more structured.
I think that's also a really sharp thing on, because I assume all of us, right? Like when we're doing the battle royales, no one ever wants to use 2 tight ends, but on those super short slates where Travis Kelce is functionally a wide receiver, and it's basically you're drafting him as whatever his position doesn't matter, and then you're filling your tight end spot with someone else, which I'm guessing there's still even a hang up for a lot of people being like, yeah, I don't want to do tight ends. I already took Kelce. I'll just let that lone spot there. It's probably nice, like small slate edge to be willing to lean into it if like there is a tight end who's a top 3 or top 4 guy.
Yeah, and I think it also sometimes puts you in an interesting position. Like for example, with this one most recently, where I was saying there were really only 4 running backs that are draftable. And sometimes you have that with tight end as well, where there's like 3 tight ends that you care about, and if you don't get one of those 3, your tight end is the last pick of the draft.
Yeah.
You also can like kind of just fuck over other people in the draft by taking 2. And so like, in a draft where there's only 2 tight ends anyone cares about, if you just take both, you kind of can screw over some other lineups where you're saying like, I'm just betting that you don't have to take a 0 essentially in a position. And like the same with running back, like I was hammering double running back whenever I could in this most recent one, because it was like, okay, maybe you want Keenan Allen over Alvin Kamara, but it's like I'm trading off Keenan Allen. I'm taking Kamara over Allen, and it means that they're taking Tank Bigsby as their running back, and like that, the trade off there of like replacement is just so big. Um, and so I think it really depends on the slate again, but I do think there's
Yeah.
some edge there in getting a little bit weird and uncomfortable.
Real quick, just want to hit this question from Jeffrey. When you make your lineups, do you try to get at least one player from the afternoon games, or is that irrelevant? So on Underdog, like if you're talking about Battle Royale and stuff like this, everything locks, when at 1 p.m. So there's no advantage or disadvantage to when your guys are going. When I talk about my DraftKings lineups on Sundays where there's late swap, there is, kind of an advantage to having some flexibility to move guys in and out of your lineup based on how popular they're going to be and with the added info of what you got. But on Underdog, there's no edge to having that, unless you just like having the sweat, which I'm never going to begrudge anyone if they want to have a player in their lineup that they get to watch in the afternoon games, but no specific edge there. This slate this week, guys, is like one of the grossest slates I've seen as far as totals. I mean, even the best game on the week, Chiefs Chargers, has a total of 48. I feel like in years past, that would have been like a 55-point total or something. So many totals under 40, so many backup quarterbacks. I mean, it is going to be gross out there.
It kind of hit me that we're in week 7. Like I just, with best fall brain, week 7 was kind of one of those ones that would be like tricky. The bye week bros would be after you when you had a whole lot of teams stacked up week 7 wise. And now that we're here, I'm like, well, who's really on bye this week that is really mattering because there's a lot of kind of like shitty teams too. And then it's just exasperated by the fact that there's like a lot of, like you said, like injuries and bad quarterback play that we're having to overcome. So I think there's a couple like kind of sneaky spots. I think we're probably going to see like a lot of like the same condensing of chalk in both these drafts and on other sites as well. Just really much feels like one of those weeks. So we'll see. But I think there's a couple spots that look good, even if like on the surface you got to kind of like polish the shit off of them a little bit, and then it looks a little bit more enticing.
Yeah, I mean, and we are now at the point of the season where you might otherwise be like, man, this New York Giants team is a dumpster fire. But then you could also be like, holy cow, this Commanders secondary is even more of a
Right.
dumpster fire. So, like, you can
Right.
start to find some spots you like. But even that game where we see wide receiver ones going off each week against the Commanders, it's a 39.5 point
Yeah.
total. So,
I actually think
last
that's
week,
looking a sneaky spot one. If you could get the Giants wide receiver right, like I actually think it's like a nice
yeah,
week for like McLaurin too to kind of have like one of those spike weeks because what number one wide receiver has been roasting the Giants too. I mean, Diggs just went off against them. Other wide receivers have been having like really good seasons against them so far. So I kind of like that spot. Like if you, I don't know, it'd probably see a situation too where we've been talking about like last week. You don't have to force bringbacks and stuff, right? Like maybe just fire up individual plays you like and try to find any semblance of like an edge out here.
yeah.
I like McLaurin this week. I've drafted him a few times. I'm at like 10% or so. He's a nice final round guy.
Would his, I mean, what did he have, like a 50% target share last week? It was insane. And it's all coming at like the expense of Jahan Dotson, who is now just completely missing in action, with even Curtis Samuel breaking out a bit
All the
too.
touchdowns going to Curtis Samuel, man. Red zone is just like he's eating. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, what are the, like if I squint some other game, the Lions have been playing really good on the road. I feel like that old, Jared Goff away from Ford Field narrative is kind of eroding here. And now if they're without their top two running backs this week, like you got to think they sling it again like they did in Tampa. I feel like I keep waiting for a Ravens signature performance too. I don't know. This Lions
Yeah.
Ravens game I think could get a little fun.
I like that one. And then the Seahawks and Cardinals game is like I think sticking out as well, where I think that one's gonna get a little steamy throughout the week. They kind of just like match up decently well against each other. Like even like Seattle's given up a lot of big fantasy performances too to both running backs and wide receivers this year. So I don't know. Kind of some gross plays in the game. Like I don't know how to read the Cardinals running back situation presently either. But some Geno stacks look a little fun and probably like, not taking up a lot of your ADP at the moment, but I think we'll get probably steamier throughout the week, if I had to guess.
Yeah, that what you just said about the Seahawks reminded me of a tweet I saw from Thorman earlier that I thought was a cool thing as far as when you're trying to think through fantasy stuff. So it was explosive play rates, both for and against. So you see, Miami just lapping everyone as far as
Yeah.
explosive plays, San Francisco, Seattle not far behind there. So it's fun if you can find the matchups where these align. Obviously, what was it, the week 2 or 3 Miami versus Denver, unstoppable force meets immovable object or whatever, or movable
It is
object.
fascinating to
So
see Buffalo up there.
yeah,
The defense, because like, it's
especially
not that's
after
not surprising.
the Giants couldn't get really anything going against them, but
Yeah.
yeah.
That seems bad, but I don't know, man. I think I'm going back to the Washington well this week as my bread and butter. That just feels nice. And I know oftentimes I would kind of break a tie favor against divisional games, but something about that game in particular and how suspect these secondaries are, like seems like it could be a nice point spot. And I might regret saying that. I probably will come Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern or so. But I kind of like that game.
As far
Yeah,
as
and I think Howell isn't like a super disgusting quarterback. I mean, considering how gross quarterback is in general, like he's been putting up points. He has that ability to run.
Basketball bags are feeling a lot better after the last 2 weeks. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
let's check out the rankings here on Underdog. I've done a couple of drafts here of the main slate. I think last night when I was doing a couple drafts during the contest, Eckler was actually the 102. And I was getting Kelsey at 103, 104 a few times. I do think it makes sense on this slate for Kelsey to be at 102. Cooper Kupp, I do think, is probably the
Mhm.
clear 101. And I do
101.
think you could probably make the case for Diggs now as the clear
I think so.
103 with how just locked and loaded his target shares are.
Yeah, it's not like New
And
England's
they're
very
playing a
scary,
Patriots
at
team.
least receiving wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think he
But
like might be a sneakier play throughout the week in some respect. Obviously, he's going first round in BR, so that's not necessarily sneaky per se, but I like him over Eckler.
yeah,
Personally.
my other kind of snap take when I did my first batch of drafts was just wanting to target this Denver defense again. And they're
Mhm.
kind of out of sight, out of mind because they weren't as horrendous last Thursday. But both Aaron Jones, who has the Q tag, but was back at practice, and Christian Watson are both
Mhm.
really cheap right now. Jordan Love going just outside the top 6 quarterbacks. That was a spot that I'm really liking.
Yeah, I can get behind Jones and Watson. Love's a tough click for me. I'm not a Love
Yeah.
guy, and I think he's looked bad enough after those first 2 games against completely soft defenses. Now you can make an argument that Denver's the softest defense in the league, and he snaps back to those week 1 and 2 forms. But I'm willing to say that if I'm going to play that offense, it's going to be probably through either of those skill position guys.
Yeah. I've done Aaron Jones, Watson. For context, I've already done 30 drafts for this week. I've
There
a
you
problem.
Oh, man.
I've done Jones, Watson, and Love. I've done Watson, Musgrave, and Love. I like Musgrave as a 6-round tight end. I can't bring myself to click on any of the Denver guys as a bring back. At least in the 6-man. In the 12-man, I can get there, but not in this.
Yeah, I think, and it is interesting because Love right now is QB 7. So if that holds, it means, his ownership will be probably sub 50%, but Musgrave as tight end 6. And I have a feeling people are going to be more excited about him relative to some of these other guys. So he'll end up being, probably drafted in most contests. It is really gross down here. I am kind of interested in Pat Freiermuth coming back and Steelers here. Like Steelers, Rams both feel like teams that kind of need to be pushed. We watched the Stars kind of consolidate the fantasy points for the Rams, but that was kind of in a game that they were controlling most of the time. Whereas if they're really getting pushed, you got to think this Steelers team that is getting a lot healthier could produce some fantasy numbers. I think Deontay Johnson's supposed to be back too, isn't he?
Yeah, it seems like he will be.
Yeah, probable here.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just hard to pick a Steelers player, to be honest. Like I would probably lean Pickens at the moment, but
the other nice thing though about Freiermuth is like normally one thing I've been thinking a lot about too, Andy saying he's not going to force a Denver bring back. Like I don't even think you need to force a Steelers bring back, but if I do want to do a correlation, probably at tight end, and it actually works out well because no one's excited to play Higbee, and then Freiermuth as like the bring back that you kind of just break the tie, I think makes sense.
I think it makes sense too. I think it'll also be way more popular as well, but for good reason. I think honestly, I'd probably rather play it with not having to like try to pick the right bring back and just bet on they getting pushed from any way, maybe even a combination of players from the Steelers. But the Rams passing attack is very clean. Like they have no running back to go to this week. So I don't know. I'm not going to be so concerned about Joey Porter Jr. out there. I think it's Cooper Kupp, eat week, and fire Puka up.
How do you guys feel about Jahmyr Gibbs this week?
I mean, if he goes, I think
Craig Reynolds week.
That's the thing,
I'm not falling for DeAndre Swift like last year.
I think anyone who's again hoping for Jahmyr Gibbs, we've all or bell cow Jahmyr Gibbs. We know that's not happening, but I still think that maybe the market now has swung too far in the other direction as far as underselling the upside potential for Gibbs and just his big play ability. We just haven't really seen it. And the more we go without seeing it, you just see the ADP drop, more and more people
How
out.
healthy is he?
I mean, it said Jahmyr Gibbs, he's trending in the right direction for week 7. But like the combo, like to your point, Clay, I would want to see him fully off the injury report and being like, he's good to go. Like an injured Jahmyr Gibbs who just suits up, that doesn't get me excited.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost one of those elements where you kind of like you you 360 yourself and see like a bad kind of take in some respects. Like the simplest version of this is like if he was healthy, how confident are you? And obviously he has upside. I don't disagree with that. I was a big fan of his going the season, but it's like, damn, am I really gonna fall victim to this same principle again? Where like last year, if Jamal Williams was out, it wasn't just like it all went to DeAndre Swift like we hoped and wanted it to. And I being a big Swift guy, like I thought that was always the most fun play. Gibbs, literally the same situation. It's like plug and pull, but I don't know. I'm a little spooked, and I think like it's the Q tag and not having like the assurance that it's like he's a healthy return this week. And like, what does that mean? That just seems to limit him even further for a workload that I wasn't very confident in if he was healthy stepping into this situation. So I don't know. That's a harder click for me, especially with having like lighter amount of entries in a tournament like this. I think I'd probably rather make a stand against Gibbs than try to like put him in to my
The thing
portfolio.
is like I think it's very fair to poke holes in Gibbs, but I mean, every single running back going around him here, you can poke a ton of holes in. Like it's really gross once you get down here.
Yeah.
I
don't
was
mind
just
Jerome Form
laughing
this week. Like I think Ford's a solid play. I know Hunt got a touchdown, but like Ford still got most of the work. Indy matchup seems like one of those kind of like weird games where there's a lot of fucking running back yards, but not a lot else.
They just got gashed too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would click Ford over Gibbs personally in that range.
I know these are these ADPs are all the same, and then it's just ordered by alphabetical or whatever. But seeing Zach Evans ahead of Najee Harris, like who's been inactive all year, is just, I don't know. It's very funny to me.
Yeah. Also interesting that Craig Reynolds has a 36 ADP. Like no one, I mean, if anyone's clicked him, it's not enough to even register an ADP yet. So
yeah. I think like Craig Reynolds is this week's like Deontay Foreman, right? Where you're not feeling very good about like the pass catching, but you know that he's going to get at least 10 plus touches. I guess the difference is you feel a lot better about the Lions' ability to get into the red zone and get to the goal line than you do the Bears.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like if you buy a narrative shit at all, it's just like you can kind of hang your hat on the coaches really seem to love him and they give him goal line opportunities and red zone work already, even with a healthy backfield. And okay, maybe he walks into one or two more, green red zone opportunities. You can paint a picture is all I'm saying. So I actually would rather like kind of place my chips in like a very unknown Craig Reynolds bucket to score a touchdown and maybe get some extra yardage than think that Gibbs has some kind of pop-off week. But I'm probably
what about
pop-off week into existence?
What about wide receivers for you guys? Andy, any epiphanies you've had through 30 drafts?
Yeah. Currently, through 30 drafts, I have 45% Puka Nacua.
Yeah.
So that's my current stance. I've been getting him in like the mid-20s even, and I just think that feels like a total smash.
It is.
That's one that I feel really good about. I have a decent amount of Mahomes, and so I end up with a decent amount of Rashee Rice.
Okay.
I was going to ask you guys if there's been any information about Jimmy Garoppolo, but I, as someone who owned 50% Devontae Adams last week, I would like to go back to clicking on the Raiders players, and I still have been, but I'd like to press the button more often because they're playing Chicago.
Yeah. How much Josh Jacobs do you have?
Not that much. He's one who I have been struggling with a bit. I've been fading Bijan every week of the season, and for some reason so far I've decided not to do that this week. So he's like in that exact same range as Jacobs, and I've been taking a lot of Bijan.
Yeah. What's the latest on Garoppolo?
I just did a little search on Twitter, and it still seems up in the air. News on his back is encouraging, but Raiders quarterback status still uncertain. So yeah, I haven't seen anything definitive.
I think for me, it's trying to get ahead of the Josh Jacobs inevitable steam that I think comes this weekend. As like a noted Raider hater, it feels weird to be kind of banging the table for Josh Jacobs being a great play, but it adds up, man. The Bears have been getting gashed. He's getting the fucking work. It seems like one of those spots. I think he could climb a little bit in ADP
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's how it
I
felt
think we
last
see
week
like
when he was
Eckler come
ADP
down a
that
little
last
30.
bit. I
week
think we
too.
see Jacobs come up a little bit, and I think Ken Walker's in a pretty reasonable spot. His will just fluctuate draft from draft based on if like what your wide receiver preferences are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the one other one that I think wide receiver that interests me, and we touched on this briefly from the quarterback perspective, is Tyler Lockett. He's going like nearly undrafted and behind Metcalf, and I just don't think that makes a lot of sense with how things have shaken up so far and playing Arizona. I like that. It's a nice, this draft is like this week is gross enough where you can find yourself like in round 5 with no real exciting stack options. And if you have a wide receiver and quarterback slot available, it's not too hard to go Lockett and Geno, and that like feels pretty good.
And they were
That's comfy.
Geno, I mean, he had a pretty rough game against the Bengals, miss Lockett on a couple deep shots, miss JSN wide open on a touchdown. Like that could have been a big game. And then on top of that, like the Cardinals continue to just get gashed by wide receivers. They've been one of the softest matchups, them in the Colts secondary this year. So yeah, I like that call a lot. Why don't we hop in a draft? You guys want to start with the Dawg Bowl there?
Yeah, let's do it if we can get in one here.
Yeah, I'll see how many. 9 people, so we're good.
Yep.
In case you guys missed it,
right.
Slight tweak on the Dawg Bowl this week. So we do have that sweet spot entry that I think a few of us have been hoping for. The $25 I think is a nice number. And then they're doing a similar to promotion to last week. Anyone that completes 10 or more Dawg Bowls will be eligible for this offer. The top 2,000 entries from the Dawg Bowl this week will receive $25 in bonus cash. And so I believe, yes, the Dawg Bowl is exactly double the size it was last week. And yeah, and I think it comes down, if I do my math right, is around like 36 to 37% chance of getting your money back there.
Yeah.
Last week I did 12 and I had 6 finish in the top 1,000. So I had 600 in play, got $300 back. So basically, if you can return at that rate, you're getting 2 entries for the price of 1 for a shot at Miami.
Yeah, I did 5 or whatever the minimum was to get I think it was 5, right, for the deal. And I didn't have any that were like a sweat like I did the week prior. I finished like 25th in one of those, but I had 4 out of my 5 hit the top 1,000. So I got a nice amount back on my entries, which was nice.
Yeah, and I saw one of your crypto pals, Sobi, right?
Yeah. Exciting. I think I've finally actually committed that I'm going to be in Miami that weekend, regardless.
Really?
So,
nice.
Yeah.
Why?
So it's Art Basel as well.
Gotcha.
And so there's going to be a bunch of stuff there, anyways, and figured might as well make the trip down. I'm sure there'll be some Underdog stuff that I can attend, even if I don't make the finals. So
there you go. That sounds fun.
Yeah, right.
I swear, Crash Rich is in every single draft that I do. I just whenever I am on, I see him drafting.
And
so how many Dawg Bowls have you guys done?
The hottest player on Underdog right now, right?
Yeah, I think so. How many Dawg Bowls this week, Clay?
Yeah, this week.
4.
Okay. Yeah, 10 feels kind of gross, but I imagine into the first, like if you have a 1 or 2 slot, you feel pretty bad by. It's just not a deep week.
Yeah, I'm starting to see people go Kelsey at 1-1, and I'm starting to be convinced of it. I'm not sure if I'm quite ready to do it myself yet, but I think it's interesting.
Yeah. I do think there are some loose ADPs right now, but I have a feeling by like Saturday when you're doing these and this really tightens up in an efficient way, it is going to feel really gross like by the 3rd round, these drafts.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, I like Amon-Ra here. I do think it's close. I also think Kenneth Walker is set up almost equally as well. I mean, Andy mentioned the passing game but I mean, you can beat these Cardinals every which way. And man, he continues to play so much better than Charbonnet, and that to the point where I thought we were going to keep getting this creep up in Charbonnet usage, and it is not happening because Walker's playing so well.
Yeah, he's been awesome, which is fun.
I was going to click Walker if he slid to me there. I'm pretty bullish on him this week, obviously, for obvious reasons. Never have I ever drafted a Raider in the first round, but here we go.
Yeah.
I'm about to have my third Patrick Mahomes Dawg Bowl team.
What do you do in this if you get shut out on Rashee Rice? Do you just keep it naked?
I haven't had that happen yet. I think that if I was desperate enough, I could see myself taking Kadarius Toney, but 6 targets, 3 receptions, 8 yards or 6 yards, whatever he got this past week is definitely interesting. But we'll see. I just want to do something different, but I'm going to take what I can get here, and I'll just take Mahomes.
There you go. Crash Rich Snap select Mark Andrews there.
That's who I was going to take if I didn't take Mahomes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you were talking, Clay, you were talking about the Josh Jacobs thing, and I think Andy was about to mention it as well. Like, I kept thinking last week he was going to get steamed, like in Battle Royales, and it just, no one ever wanted him. He just stayed there. Even after, like, Karain made him his cover boy, there's, like, so many uses that were, like, Josh Jacobs smash spot. And everyone's like, I think I'm good, man.
For years I've refused to play Josh Jacobs, and he would just like get steamed and then smash, and it just doesn't feel like that's the discourse as much this season, and it's like not correlating the same way, but the role is much better than it's been. So I don't know, but I'm buying into it.
I was really hoping Puka would fall to me at 19. Yeah. That would have felt really good.
It was either I was going to take him. Consideration Pacheco there, but went Pacheco.
Maybe I'll just try to set up my my golf stack here. I'll grab Laporta.
Don't hate it. Yeah, I mean, I kind of also like the running game and the the Charger, the running side for the Chiefs this week too. Pacheco just getting a lot of the work, and like it's a solid matchup so far this season against the Chargers. So I can see that hopefully playing well.
Yeah. This is an interesting week as well in the 12-mans, just because running back gets really thin really fast. Where like now the next guy going off the board is probably Jonathan Taylor playing the Browns defense. And then you have questionable Jahmyr Gibbs, and then it's like Brian Robinson, James Cook, Jerome Ford, Zach Moss, Ramondre. Like there isn't a lot of exciting options here.
Yeah, that high T start feeling pretty fucking cozy. I'm not gonna lie. Especially on a week.
I've done like some last round Roshan Johnson or Javonte Williams, but I don't know.
Is Roshan back this week? Most likely.
I'm betting he is, just based on concussion stuff.
Yeah. They were saying, there was a chance. I think, like last week they're saying week 7, right? Even.
Yeah. Because normally it's a week off, and then it was just kind of ambiguous because they played on Thursday night, and everyone's like, could the 9 days, could that actually still make it possible? But had to sit out. I was debating whether to go, like if I'm playing that Detroit-Baltimore game, I took Laporta because there was no way he was coming back, but I was debating if I wanted to grab Lamar there. I think if I knew for a fact I could get Zay at 30, I would have grabbed him. But then, man, there just really isn't anything viable to stack Lamar with outside of Andrews and Zay right now.
No.
Yeah, what Nelson Aguilar had the most routes run, right?
Yeah, Odell and Bateman are not happening. Ooh, that Clay hates to hear this, but maybe he's going to be a trend center. Copper Prices says, fun fact, running back has yet to win in the Dawg Bowl.
Look, my response to that would be we haven't seen a bye week as gross as this one yet. So it's only week 7. Only week 7,
Yeah.
baby. I just think there's such a bigger gap between, like, sorry, real quick, just like on that point. Like, I think there's such a bigger gap between like the top, like honestly, 4 or 5 running backs this week and the rest of the running back field versus like the wide receiver field just feels a lot flatter, in my opinion, aside from like Cup and Diggs. And we just have so many more higher options there. So that's my retort. Goff.
Yeah, I agree with that this week. I think that's the right way to think about it. I think, like, you know, whether you get Amari Cooper or Mike Evans or Marquise Brown, I think you can like tell the same story about all of them. Whereas you like kind of do fall off a cliff a little bit.
Yeah,
running back.
Yeah, Lockett's a great pick. Like, there's a couple, like everyone going, all the receivers going in this 3rd round are relatively flat, in my opinion.
Yep.
Even Cooper, it really is after like Puka, but then you can make an argument that Puka is closer to this tier with cut back than he is like the tier above with DK. Although I think he's viable for a spike week any week. I just think that comes to the expense of Cup a little bit.
Yeah,
I think this other comment from Copper is interesting. That 13 of 18 winners in the last 2 rounds. I think that's something I've been thinking about a lot with the season so far in general. Just that it feels like there has been. Look at this, I'm getting Rashi Rice again. It's crazy how that works out. It feels like there's been a lot of just like the top quarterbacks haven't performed that well. Where like, Mahomes, does he even have a 20 fantasy point game yet? I don't think so. Josh Allen, I'm not sure, he hasn't done anything crazy, and so I'm curious to see whether or not we're going to like get some regression there, where we'll have a couple weeks where just the top couple quarterbacks really smash. I don't know.
I also think it's because of it. The quarterback thing, like that, intuitively makes sense to me because of the opportunity cost and the drop off of skill position players around the 3rd and 4th round, where you really are going from guys who project for 20% of the targets down to guys that project for like 10% and become really true flyers. Whereas, CJ Stroud is going to be on the field. Like, he's going to be the quarterback the whole game. And so that late round quarterback, I don't know, dynamic, I think is really illuminated in these Dawg Bowl drafts.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I think it's even more true probably in these tighter weeks where like, it gets really bad really fast. Like,
yeah. I mean,
but then at the same time, you also have some interesting potential late round picks. Like, it doesn't feel good, but there's guys like Jahan Dotson and Jerry Jeudy and like even like a Josh Downs or someone who you can go late round. Like, I can convince myself that they actually will do better than they have been.
Yeah. Yeah, I found myself in that very gross range, and see if I can buy the dip on James Cook here, even though his usage has not been ideal. But I assume Damian Harris will be out this week. It'll be just Cook and Latavius Murray. And I mean, like watching Latavius Murray get stuffed at the goal line on multiple carries. Maybe the Bills coaches will, maybe actually watch that film this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's going to be the first person to draft Philadelphia Eagle, Julio Jones?
He's not even in the.
You can't draft him in this.
Oh yeah.
Brutal.
That's going to make I think that contest is going to be really interesting. The 2 game slates that were one game is what's the Thursday night game next week? Let me look.
Thursday night game, like this week, is Jacksonville, New Orleans.
Yeah. No, next week.
Oh, next week, week 8. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just pulled up the
Bucks Bills. So like
interesting.
That I think that makes like a really interesting slate where you have this game that's just going to be like a, the Philly, Miami game, and then Bucks Bills, where it's like feels like 2 very different games. I'm sure it'll create some interesting dynamics.
Yeah. Chipsy, the Philly fans are tilting. More data from Copper on the Dawg Bowls. RB1 by round 2 in 13 of 18 winners. Running back 1 by round 2. Is that the same thing? Oh, in 17 of 18. Then wide receiver 3 by round 3. 0 of 18. Interesting.
Wait, he did say the same thing twice.
Yeah, he meant running back 1 by
Oh.
round 3 in that second one.
So going triple wide receiver has not worked yet at all.
Yeah.
Which that adds up to me, because that's another example where, if you kind of do the same thing and think about it, it's like how many true like tournament winning upside running backs are there on any given slate versus wide receiver, and there just aren't that many.
Yeah. So my team so far, I started off with that Lions stack, Goff, Laporta, St. Brown, James Cook, and then I took Michael Pittman Jr. His target shares have just been insane with Minshew. So I don't love that matchup against Cleveland, who just gave the Niners fits, but Pittman's work is it's hard to find those kind of target shares in the 5th and 6th round here.
Yeah, I like that pick.
And there goes Craig Reynolds, 1 pick after me.
Wow.
Clay, your team through 4, Jacobs, Pacheco, and then you get the McLaurin, Sam Howell stack. You're about to be on the clock, and Andy has the Mahomes, Rashee Rice, and then Barkley and Pitts.
Yeah, I didn't mean to take Howell there. I kind of had a little bit of analysis paralysis, like looking at the receiver options timed out, but it is what it is. That's fine, because I don't know if he would have made it all the way back. I am struggling though about how I want to play my next wide receiver position. I think I'm going to go for a breakout. This is a wide range. We're trying to go to Miami, so I'm going to do a bring back on my Commanders bet and go with Hyatt. Let's say how to get ahead of the breakout game. He played a season high in snaps last week. Can't click Wan'Dale Robinson. I literally couldn't click him because he was taking the pick before me, but not on a half-point PPR.
Ooh, JSN off the board. I'm going to be going with Curtis Samuel. Just seems to catch a lot of passes. And now I'm a little bit torn. I think Sutton is interesting. I think Deontay Johnson's interesting, but I kind of want to go for another running back. And I know Samaje Perine injured, and this is probably going to be the only time in my life that I draft Javonte Williams during these tournaments. So why not get a little crazy? But last round Javonte doesn't feel too bad. I love the last round Josh Dobbs by Crash Rich. He's a QB I like a lot this week.
Yeah. It was nice to see him back running a little bit last week after not getting any rushing yards the week before. Yeah, definitely when you have Marquise Brown too, I think that makes sense.
I went Dawson Knox at tight end. He got 6 targets last 2 weeks. I think Buffalo can have success passing, so maybe he finds a touch in zone. Wouldn't hate it.
Is Kincaid still hurt?
He's in concussion protocol still, so
he'll probably play, but
yeah, hasn't really been affecting Knox's on-field involvement too severely.
Yeah.
Looking at these, thinking about. Go ahead, Pete, make your pick, and then I'll.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep picking on Denver here and go with Romeo Dobbs.
Looking at what was done here, like these drafts, I think the late quarterback makes a lot of sense. Looking at this, where it's
Mm-hmm.
last round Desmond Ridder or Josh Dobbs, feels. I'm not totally convinced that like Josh Dobbs is worse. Is going to be like worse than Stafford this week, or like Jordan Love or any of those guys. And you can get him in literally the last round. And so I do get why that would work out, especially in a week like this.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there's some amount of potential strategy of trying to play really flexibly as far as like your early picks to just kind of let you like set yourself up for multiple outs in the last round at quarterback based on who people pick and don't pick. Where like, I mean, even like taking a flyer on a last round Deshaun Watson, if you might play, isn't a bad deal against Indy.
Well, also like when you consider how flat quarterback is and then how bad tight end is, it does make sense when you look at Sobe's lineup. I'm trying to find it because I know he posted it on Twitter. Or no, I was thinking of the other person who won. Let me see if I can find this one who won the Dawg Bowl last week. Yeah, okay. This one. Is this the one I'm thinking of?
Pretty crazy than 9.
Maybe I'm thinking of, I don't know why I had did someone win something with a CJ Stroud? This was the lineup I was thinking about. Sorry. This other qualifier here, DPY. So, the first 3 picks, Mostert, Amon-Ra, and Thielen, and then the last 3 picks where it's just like you use your quarterback pick late and you correlate that with their tight end of just being like, hey, I'm punting quarterback and tight end. It's hard for anyone to separate anyway. So if my quarterback's going to win me this tournament, their tight end's probably coming along for the ride. So I do see merit in that, especially for those less popular QBs and tight ends that you can kind of find at the end of the draft.
Yeah. I think it'd be viable. Like I could have clicked like Logan Thomas, like bounce back to go along with Sam Howell. I regret I would have loved to have seen if I hadn't taken timed out and taken him in the 4th, if he would have made it back to me in the 5th, because I think that's like more advantageous. But it's challenging because like I don't know. Obviously the other clicks are more prominent wide receiver wise that went between then and my next pick, like Palmer, London, DJ Moore, Jerry Jeudy, but neither of them have like great particular like setups and or matchups this week and bad quarterback situations kind of across the board. So I don't know. Palmer probably would have been the guy I should have taken because there is some semblance of upside with him against the Chiefs, but Chiefs been good on defense. So should we hit up a little BR?
Yeah, I want to see. They're wanting me to see what happened last week in here. The guy who got 9th. Oh, it's Harbs. Let's see. Yeah, Harbs did the same thing there. Did the Ritter in Pitts with the last 2 picks, and then jammed in Tyreek, Amon-Ra, Godwin, and Breece Hall. I do think it's like slate specific, right? Because you need the late quarterback and the late tight end to line up. Like this week, Andy had to take Pitts earlier, but Ritter's still going super late. But last week was a great week to do this when everyone was still out on Pitts.
Yeah, it's hard. I don't know, man. I'm out on Ritter.
I'm out on Ritter as a starting quarterback in the NFL, but I'm in to score fantasy points.
Yeah,
that's fair. Tampa Bay feels like a sneaky, like bad spot for him though. Like that's a division game that I feel like could play down. 101, baby. That's right.
Oh, sorry, Andy.
I was not paying attention. That's all right. It's better that way anyways.
Some people were getting down insane volume in Dawg Bowl. Did I see it was Jewish McCaffrey had 70 entries, he said in the Badge Bros Discord?
Holy shit. Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think this is
you could buy yourself a nice trip to Miami with 70 entries. I will tell you that.
Oh man. Depends on how many weeks you go for though.
It's true.
If you finish in the top, was it 2,000 this week? You're right.
Yeah. So 2,000. Oh no, now we're in Battle Royale. I wasn't looking at the I think it's a little over 5K this week. Yeah.
Yeah, 5,200 entrants.
So yeah, 38.
75 cash above the entry fee.
I do think
So you
like
just do 70 entries, finish top 70 in all of them. Easy.
yeah.
Easy money.
I think you can. I was thinking about this. Had you guys thought about this with the Dawg Bowl and the promo specifically, where it is functionally, a double up, or let's even call it a triple up, where the whole thing in general too, where like the scrolling down those last picks, like you're getting a little off the board to get unique. Where actually, if you're trying to get your money back, like the uniqueness isn't ultimately what you're caring about. I'm basically trying to think: is there a way to build higher floor lineups so you can then just free roll the finishing in first, but it's kind of counterintuitive because it's really hard to finish in first without having some unique elements to your lineup.
I think probably. I think there's probably going to be enough variance in a 12-person draft that like even if you just literally auto drafted the chalk, just put in the ETR rankings and auto drafted. I think that like you probably have a shot at winning. And like you were saying, like you can probably set a high enough floor with that to try to get at least most of your money back with some non-zero chance at hitting the nuts.
And like think about the type of player you're drafting late. Like it's actually pretty funny seeing Wan'Dale Robinson go to Jamison Williams, right? Like Wan'Dale Robinson's target projection compared to Jamison Williams, those couldn't be more wildly different. Like Jamison Williams has probably a better chance of winning you the tournament, but Wan'Dale Robinson has a much better chance at catching 6 balls. So that's kind of what I mean by that. And then like it doesn't mean that you're removing your ceiling. It means that you need Wan'Dale Robinson to get in the end zone with one of his short targets too.
I've just been, consistently kind of like surprised by how quote unquote normal a lot of the teams that win are. Like there's not, it's not always somebody scrolling. So I think there is like, it's kind of fascinating, right? Because like in that sense, like, all right, cool. It gives you more confidence that like play tighter, don't scroll as much. Cause like at worst, you're going to get more of your money back hypothetically and still have a chance to finish in first. But then it also makes the case that then like, all right, well, maybe this is the week to scroll a little bit more because if more people are going to like not scroll as much to play it safer, then like you're getting just another degree of uniqueness. But I think, I don't know. I feel like it has been surprising to me how many of the winning lineups are lineups where there haven't been a scroll down player as much in them.
Yeah.
We have a super chat question.
We got
we need some more context here, I think. Is this like full-blown dynasty league or what's going on?
Would you trade Kamara, a 2024 second and third, for Mostert and Brian Robinson? Can I get more context? What's your record, Matt? Are you a contender? Or
I assume it's Bijan Robinson, not Brian Robinson.
Oh, that's a good one. I thought Brian
I don't. No one calls Bijan B-Rob. That's Brian Robinson, right?
That would be a good distinction. Otherwise, maybe, I'd say I agree with Chipsy. So,
primetime. What teams are we targeting this week? Based on my 2 drafts I've done today, I'm going to be going after this Lions Ravens game, and also love this Cardinals Rams game and Pitt Rams. I think those are probably my 3 favorite, I guess, non-obvious games. If we say Chiefs Chargers is the obvious one.
Man, I was really hoping that Josh Allen was going to slide to me there. That would have been really fun.
Yeah. Love Commanders Giants. Have we gotten a Daniel Jones update? Is he going to play this week?
Nothing that I've seen. Does it really matter, honestly?
That's what I was just going to say. It probably doesn't. Terod's been playing better anyways.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. This is like...
Yeah, see, I love teams like this that you're putting together, Pete. I feel like they're really strong. And you can, like... You have a lot of outs. Like, if you want to get unique, you can go... if you want to really get unique, you can go Dobbs and Marquise Brown.
Right.
You can go Stafford and Brown. You can go Goff and Flowers. there's like a lot of different ways to mix it up here at the end.
I know, it's funny that you said that. I was just thinking through some of those combos. I do think at this point, I'm like, even with these awesome wide receivers, like the Stafford ceiling, it has been hard for him to access. It makes me kind of want to go Goff again, or just set up a different stack.
Dude, tight end is so
many
mind bending this week.
I'm going to keep hammering Christian Watson, and then I'll have 3 quarterback options as far as Stafford, Love, or Goff. Do you find yourself, Andy, when you're doing heavy volume early, trying to just get as many kind of like super teams ADP values, and then as the week progresses, then starting to get more gal brain with the scroll the F down?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't really scroll down that much in general until like really late in the week when I feel like, it's like, okay, I'm looking through this team that I'm building and I'm pretty sure I've built almost the exact same team already. Who cares if I take the ADP 30 player again? Like, I have enough lineups with them already. And so then I'll just start to get a little bit more experimental. But yeah, I would say early on, I really just try to find players who I think are going to have their ADP change over the course of the week. Basically, when the ETR rankings come out is kind of how I think about it, is like who that ETR is going to have higher and will then see steam. Where like I think Puka is a good example of that this week.
Yeah. I did end up I thought there was no chance he would make it back. Herbert does come back, and even though I just have him with Eckler, I'm like, how many times is Herbert going to go at pick 33 this week?
That's insane.
So yeah, this is a fun team. Herbert at quarterback, Laporta at tight end, Eckler and Kenneth Walker at running back, and then Puka and Christian Watson at wide receiver. Have a feeling you won't be able to build that team on Sunday morning.
No, probably not.
Clay, what did you do from the 101?
Went Cup, locked in Jacobs and Pacheco, hit Tyler Lockett, and then Gino, and then did it with Freiermuth bring back because I just like the tiebreaker for me at tight end. So I like it. Clean team. I think in retrospect probably should have went Stafford and Higbee and kind of taken the ethos of those winning lineups that we had just reviewed with a smooth little quarterback double stack. But I agree. I mean, I think if there is a week that Stafford does find his ceiling, it's a week like this week where there is no running game and a pretty weak opponent. The dude could throw 55 fucking times. So I don't know. A lot of love to go around, but I'm planning to soak that up through Cup.
Yeah, it's always interesting to look at the guys who are going undrafted in these. Did the Mahomes drafter didn't want to take Rashee Rice. Ended up just doing a Keenan little mini. I think that's like viable with how spread out the Chiefs are, but I still do think, like, to Andy's point, like if we are finally getting the Mahomes 30-point game, like one of those wide receivers is probably going to be close to optimal, I would guess, when Mahomes hits.
Yeah. And if they're not, then it means that Kelsey's smashed and you don't have him.
And you don't have him. Right.
Right.
And so it's like, take a flyer. I think it's fine to take Tony. I think like you can tell yourself the story of naked Mahomes is the right thing to do because Tony has a touchdown, Rice has a touchdown,
right?
Justin Ross has a touchdown, but like maybe do that once or twice. I wouldn't want to do it a lot.
In tabbing through this, and I guess this, speaks to the depth. I think there's definitely some viable quarterbacks who are going undrafted. The running backs is where it's like, yeah, I mean, it's pretty gross. You got both Indianapolis backs, you got Cook, Jerome Ford. Like, yeah, you can squint and tell yourself a story about some of these guys, but it does make me lean toward getting that running back, at least one, through the first 2 rounds this week. Or if you're going to getting them early, because then that wide receiver, I mean, there's a lot of names here that are pretty interesting as far as offering spike week potential. So I think it's probably a better week to get creative at wide receiver than running back.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, even guys like a Josh Palmer or something, given the game that they're about to play,
Yeah.
like if he's your second wide receiver off the board, I'm not upset about that.
For sure. Sweet dudes. It was good. I'm always jealous of the Badge Bros getting to do the early week battle royale and underdog preview here. So it's nice to get to talk it through with you guys. I already feel energized to rip a bunch of these off the next couple days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a gross week. You know, it's I think it's a good thing when it feels really disgusting when you're drafting in the week because it means you like have to actually use your brain a little bit as
Yeah.
opposed to where, like the last couple like last week's slate, the optimal thing to do is just draft all the Miami Dolphins players.
Yep.
Like that's just not a very fun way to draft. Whereas with this, like I think there is a lot more benefit to really trying to be thoughtful about what you're doing. So that's always exciting. And yeah, I'm
Yeah.
looking forward next Tuesday, little NBA season opener. Should be
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. You'll have to get us a little primer too on some underdog strat for those contests. Yeah. What you were saying was just making me think too about like, the bringbacks has always been a conversation, and last week kind of proving that there's no hard and fast rules where a lot of the spots like the bringbacks didn't hit and, not having a Cardinals bringback and stuff with your Kyron and Cup was optimal. But then you go and look and then Adam Thielen is in every lineup with Raheem Mostert. And so it's like, yeah, sometimes the
Yeah,
bringback hits and then
yeah.
sometimes it doesn't.
There was a while yesterday where the top lineup in the BR had Tua, Mostert, Waddle, Hill, and Thielen. It's just like that never
Yeah.
happens. It was crazy.
And it never happens except when it does, it is the Dolphins. It's just like it
Yeah,
was
Always.
the Dolphins Broncos game last year. It was that Dolphins Ravens game that went nuclear. God bless Mike
yeah,
McDaniel and this Miami Dolphins team.
I know
Um,
it's weird. This is the first week that somebody's gonna go to Miami without a Dolphins player on their fucking lineup. So
that's right. It's impossible this week. You can't use the Dolphins as the ultimate crutch
yeah, no
on
Miami cheat
Underdog.
code.
Uh, as a reminder for the Dawg Bowl, if you guys joined late or missed it, I think I saw you reference this on Twitter too, Andy, that they should have the promo like somewhere within the app so people know.
yeah,
Um, but just to put it up here one more time, if you do 10 or more, if you get to 10, then you're locked into the promo of any of your lineups that finish in the top 1,000 or 2,000. You'll get that money back. So Hope uses the example. If you do 10 entries and 9 of them finish in the top 2,000, you would have had 250 in entries and you get 225 back in bonus cash. So that would obviously be a very nice ROI, cashing 9. But I do think like if you want to tilt your exposures a little bit, that you can actually, and it's something I might think through if I get up into the upper ranges of volume. But definitely if you plan to do a couple of these, make sure you get to 10 so you unlock that promo there. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Like we mentioned, we'll talk some hoops next week with Skeets. Hope you guys all have a good rest of your week. Check out our friends over at the Badge Bros for more daily content, and I'll be syncing up with them again on Friday afternoons for Off and On the Clock, where we go through the slate, and it will always be fun to see how much changes between now and then.
Yeah.
For Clay, for Andy, this is the club. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.